Hi guys, it's Ryan here, aka Warfare27. I'm going to do another video, but it's a bit different to ones I've done in the past. This is more kind of like a vlog kind of video, because normally I would be doing like a show and tell of the computer games, DVDs and Blu-rays that I've gotten. But you know, I've kind of gotten quite a lot over the last sort of few weeks since Christmas. So you know, I'm kind of overshot at the moment, so you know, I've done kind of what I've gotten over the last few weeks. So I kind of want to do more like an actual video, just kind of discussing things. You know, how I felt sort of last year in terms of gaming and films went. I'd like to also get some feedback from you guys. You know, what you think. You know, what's your favorite kind of game from last year, and also kind of favorite movies. You know, I don't want to hear kind of like the typical sort of standard you know, game of the year kind of games. I want something different or quirky or an interesting game. You know, something that maybe people might not have picked up and played or watched. If it's a film, you know, I like kind of quirky little kind of games. Some they kind of fall into obscurity and kind of disappear. You know, people talk about Duke Nukem Forever being kind of a pretty disappointing game from last year. But you know, for me, I've enjoyed it. You know, it did kind of become a budget kind of game very quickly. You know, and people did kind of criticise the fact that it also been 12 years in development, and it looked like it had been in development for 12 years because it seemed to be a mishmash of kind of different things and styles depending on obviously what part of the game was done when. But you know, I like the game. You know, for me, um, it wasn't a huge disappointment. You know, it was a bit of a letdown. Um, but you know, I still find the game fun. You know, and it's kind of got the Duke Nukem kind of finish to it, and you know. It's got this nostalgia factor for me, you know, and that's why I probably like it more, and that's why I probably didn't find it as big as a flop as some people think it was. You know, I bought the GoldenEye Reloaded Rejuge that came out earlier, sorry, in October time, November, and you know, it's an alright game. You know, I find it no, it doesn't have the kind of the original kind of GoldenEye flair that was on the N64. You know, and I've had issues trying to get onto multiplayer with this one. You know, it's very difficult to find a game and you know even get into a game. You know, there are people playing it online, but you know that's kind of a disappointment for me in that sense. You know, I have played through it. You know, I like the fact they tried to also bring Daniel Craig into it and you know use his character instead of the Pierce Brosnan one. But you know, they kind of messed around a bit too much. I preferred the original version. And I didn't like the way they kind of changed it. And the graphics are okay. You know, it was a Wii port, and they did try and make the best to kind of upgrade it. But you know, for me, it got a bit of a letdown. But my biggest disappointment in terms of gaming from last year has to be Rage. You know, it was done by ID Software, who did the Doom games. You know, and they're quite well known for doing very good first-person shooters. And also, obviously, Bethesda had a hand in it as well. You know, and I'm a big fan of their games, the Fallout series, Oblivion, Skyrim. You know, they're fantastic role-playing games. But you know, I really wanted to like Rage, but I think it was kind of overhyped, and you know the game falls quite flat. You know, it is an open world, and that's the kind of games I like. However, it's a very boring open world, and there's very little to do in it. You know, it's kind of the same kind of you go back to the same areas quite regularly to do kind of fetch quests and you know kill the same enemies over and over again. And you know the main gripe for me with the game, even though it looks quite good, was the fact that you know I had it on PS3. I ended up with two copies, unfortunately, so I've got two that I can't get rid of. But you know the PS3 struggled to load textures, and you know certain areas looked just a bit messy. You know it's fine when you're moving quick enough, you didn't really notice it. But as soon as you stand still and you were looking, you know it's okay if you were static and looking in one direction, but as soon as you kind of turned, you noticed it was you know the texture was still loading up, and that kind of ruined it for me. You know I didn't like the fact you know I had to wait for kind of the scenery to kind of become more detailed. But you know, I really did want this game to be good. You know, and it's okay. You know, it's a very kind of non-existent storyline, but you can kind of go about doing things the way you want to do it. But you know, there's not really much in terms of replayability in this game. You know, so that for me was my biggest disappointment. 2011. You know, I also did purchase a 3DS, pretty much close to when it came out in March. You know, and after 2 months, I sold it. I think I probably was a bit too eager when purchasing this handheld, um, because I think at the time when it came out, you know, it was quite expensive, and there were still a few flaws with the original hardware, which obviously came to light not long after it came out. And the games itself, you know, there wasn't a huge selection of games at the time that kind of really showed off the full 3D capabilities of this neat little handheld. But you know, I think now I probably made a mistake in getting rid of it too soon because you know there are some good cracking good games coming out for it. You know, you've got Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart 7, Mario Land 3D, and you know a game I really would like to play, which is out on the 27th of January, is Resident Evil Revelations. You know, for a handheld DS game, you know, it looks really good, and it's a Resident Evil game, you know, and you know, I like my Resident Evil games. So I'm a bit unsure whether or not to go back to getting a 3DS or the new PSP, the Vita, which is out in February. Again, I'm not sure about that one. You know, I bought a PSP on launch, and you know, it was, you know, I liked it, but I've never really kind of gotten into the handheld gaming kind of market because you know I don't really go out and about and play games, and that's kind of what it's for. You know, it's portable gaming, but you know, it's probably not what I'd intend to use it for because I don't even playing it if I was around a house, in my house. You know, if I was around at a friend's house, you know, it'd be a bit rude to kind of just start playing with a handheld gaming device. So you know, the only time I'd be using it was at home, and you know, I've got a PS3 and an Xbox for that, so you know, it kind of defeats the purpose for me personally, anyway. But it does look a good little piece of kit. Again, you know, it's got a touch screen and a touch panel on the back. Memory cards, I think, again, like the PSP, overpriced. You know, and the fact that, you know, some of the games use quite a lot of memory, they're kind of forcing you to have to buy the more expensive cards, you know, and at the end of the day it's going to be quite expensive. So may or not get one, but it depends, you know, I might wait around until the price comes down, but you know, I'm a bit of an impulsive buyer. I do like to buy things as soon as they come out, you know, pre-ordering a lot of games last year, you know, I kind of overwhelmed myself a wee bit. Um, I'm finding it difficult to kind of get into one game at the moment, so I'm kind of playing bits and pieces of other games. But you know, there were many great games that came out last year. You know, we had Skyrim, Driver, Power of the Line, and tell a lie, that was a game for Driver San Francisco. You know, that was a great game. You know, it's fun. Talked about it before in a previous video. There's been Alice Madness Returns. Um, what else did I get? Batman Arkham City. Need for Speed the Run, you know, it's a bit underrated. You know, it's not a huge improvement over Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, but it kind of takes the formula and kind of adds a little twist to the storyline in the race from San Francisco to New York. But I like racing games as well, and I've always kind of liked Need for Speed series apart from the Shift ones, because I'm not really a big fan of racing games which, you know, you're on tracks. I like kind of, you know, open road kind of racing games, and especially ones with damage. You know, I can't get into simulation games like Forza. Forza, you know, the other ones, I can't remember what the hell they're called. Obviously Gran Turismo and stuff like that as well. You know, that's not the kind of games, the racing games I like. I like the burnouts, split second, you know, destructive stuff. Yeah, you know, so I'd like to know what you guys kind of think in terms of what your sort of favourite games are. You know, I've said I'll talk about some films. You know, there was quite a few good films that came out last year for me. You know, I've recently just got Troll Hunter, which I'm going to be watching later today, and be doing a review of that hopefully in the next couple of days. Rise of the Planet of the Apes again is another one I watched the other day, and that was a very good film. Didn't like the kind of overuse of the CGI in terms of the monkeys and the chimpanzees and the gorillas, but I suppose it's the only way they could get them to kind of do what they wanted them to do in terms of the movie. But you know, there's been some turkeys of films as well. You know, I kind of avoid kind of watching rubbish films, but you know, I do have a collection of a few rubbish films myself. But you know, it's Super 8 was another one I really enjoyed. You know, it's a great family movie. I'm waiting for that one to arrive on Blu-ray as well, so you know, I'll probably do a proper review of that once I've watched over it again. It was a while ago since I've seen it. Paranormal Activity 3 as well, you know, it's one I want to really check out, but I missed that one in the cinemas because where I live, we don't have one. So you know, in order for me to get to a cinema, I have to kind of travel a few miles, a few hundred miles more like. So you know, I tend to have to wait for films to come out on DVD and Blu-ray before I get a chance to watch them. But you know, the trailer for Paranormal Activity 3 blew me away. Kind of, you know, it was a big improvement over the first and second one. You know, a lot of people say the second one was a bit rubbish compared to the first, but to be honest with you, I liked the second one. I found the scares more kind of scary. You know, the first one, it was kind of like a Blair Witch kind of film for me. You know, it had a lot of promise and it built up to something, but then it kind of fell a bit flat towards the end. Whereas kind of Paranormal Activity, the first one, you know, it ramped up the scares throughout the film, but there was opportunities I think they missed with that film, which I think they kind of addressed in the second one, which is probably why I like that one more. In fact, you know, they continue the story on to the third one, and there's also a fourth one in the works. Again, that'll be out on Halloween this year, so it's becoming a bit formulaic again, like the Saw movies. You know, there's usually one of them every Halloween. It'll be interesting to see if there is one this year. I don't think there will be because they had the final chapter But then again, in the film industry, final's never final. We've had 5 Final Destination films, and they've already said, if the 5th one does very well in terms of sales, they were going to do a 6th and 7th one back to back. So watch this space. I like those films as well. So I'll be quite happy to see a 6th and 7th one. I don't know how they're going to do in terms of storyline, because the 5th one, without kind of ruining it for anyone, if you haven't seen it, I'll try and say it without kind of going too kind of overboard, but when the 5th one, death comes full circle. People who have watched it probably know what I mean. People who haven't seen it yet might know, but hopefully I haven't ruined the film for you. It's a very good film. It's 4th one was okay. This one actually is a lot better for the deaths. It's kind of more realistic. The 4th one had that swimming pool death, which was a bit kind of far fetched. But shit happens. You don't know. Something like that could happen in real life, but you don't know. Yeah, so that's all me really. So it's just a kind of little video with me rambling on a wee bit. But like I said in a previous video, that I'd maybe try and do one on my DVD collection. So I'm up for some suggestions. If you have any films you think that maybe I could check out that I might not have, I do have a kind of a average sized collection of DVDs, probably about sort of 500-600, and probably about sort of 30-40 Blu-rays. But I'm open to suggestions. If there's any films you think I might enjoy, I could review. Just let us know. I've already had one from a subscriber who suggested a film called Botched. Now I've actually got that one. I haven't watched it in a wee while, but I will quite happily do a review on that if he wants me to. It'd be good for me to kind of watch it again, because I don't think I paid attention the first time round it was on. But it's kind of a horror comedy film, a very weird one to describe. But like I said, also games as well. There's any games you think that need to kind of be discussed, little obscure sort of hidden gems. I'm quite happy to talk about them as well. Like I said, I've got like Deadly Premonition, which is a very quirky, odd survival horror kind of game. Clunky controls, the graphics are rough, and the acting is crap, to say the least. But it's one of these games, it's kind of become that awful. It's really enjoyable to play. Again, it's a very kind of Twin Peaks kind of game. It's a weird one. It's kind of got elements of Silent Hill in terms of kind of like this kind of alternate reality in the town. But the enemies, I can't really describe what they are. They're kind of like ghosts, possess people, and they kind of walk backwards and try to suck out your soul or something through your tongue. It's an odd game to describe. But I think it's a one to kind of pick up and play even for rental. It can be quite cheap. And it's as I said, once you kind of play it yourself, you'll know what I mean by kind of the Twin Peaks kind of style in terms of like the storyline and what's going on. But that's the kind of game that kind of mean these kind of weird ones that you can pick up and play. But that's me, I think. So again, thanks for watching. Sorry if I've rambled on a wee bit too much, or kind of just look a bit lost. But this is my first kind of video, kind of just talking by myself. Again, feedback's always welcome. And if you enjoy watching, always subscribe. I'll return the favour. So again, yeah, thanks for listening. Cheers, guys.